Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of FireDEV, a fireside chat with people in the industry. Today, my guest is Mauricio Tonon. Mauricio, how are you doing?
I'm great, great. Thanks for inviting me, man. Pleasure to be here.
No, of course. I appreciate you coming on to the podcast. And Mauricio, so you're self-employed. You're into AI. Do you want to, start on that? Do you want to touch a little bit about your AI endeavors?
Sure thing, sure thing. So right now I'm actually collaborating with some studios in a more uh, full-time commitment. So we'll share something about that later. But I came from a background of digital design and marketing and advertising, but I always have a thing for the technological and innovative side, so we can like create new and different solutions to like tell stories in a better and more effective ways to people. So I've always been addicted to the technological aspects of the industry. So I always like the companies I started to work at. The first thing I do is like have a coffee with the lead of development in the company, so I understand where they are and like what they're doing, what technologies they're exploring and everything, so I can familiarize myself with it and like be do the best in my job with the technology available. So I explore a lot of different tech options. So I did UX and UI design. I work with data design and business design in a sense of using a huge amount of data and transforming it into like an immersive experience to tell a story to people. So it's a lot of different unusual things, let's call it, is where my head tend to go to discover new things and get excited. So on 2022, when I saw the first apps doing some AI imagery, and they look terrible, but like, I saw something interesting there, something that was exciting and promising. So I get like alpha invite to Midjourney. It was invite only at the time. And it was funny story because I was about to do a jump of my designer career to become a full-time 3D artist, working with 3D and animation. But I got hit by a terrible tendonitis on both of my arms, so I literally couldn't do what I intended because it was super demanding in terms of effort. And 1 week later, the Midjourney invite came up, and I was sad because like I couldn't go to the 3D world as an artist full time, but then I like get happy because well, I still can produce creative things. And from that on, I just like start to using and adopting and like testing AI as a tool, especially on the side of I saw a lot of people using to do like fake things and gore things and like ugly things and like well that's not all that AI can do. So I started to produce colorful, vivid, and like good vibes, let's call it, imagery using Midjourney and sharing my prompts on LinkedIn. People just really loved that I was sharing how I did the things and start to share my work to others and start to grow kind of organically. And then people start to ask me to teach them and give classes and build a course around it. And then someone had an idea for a project and hey, can you help us here as a consultant? And kind of happened quite organically, being honest. And little by little, I think the transition happens. And just in February of this year, I completely changed to work full time with AI. So from since February 2024, I'm a full time AI consultant, and I build workflows and solutions for brands based on their needs. I train models based on their aesthetic and their brands, and really any challenge that anyone wants to throw at me on AI, I would like to embrace and try to make it work.
Okay. And out of all the tools there are out right now, especially the major ones for generating AI art, what interests you the most and which ones are you actively using? And on the flip side, which ones would you just stay away from, for creating art, and why?
So interesting question. The thing is, there is so many tools and solutions in the AI landscape right now. Like there's a website called futuretools.io. It's basically a categorization website for AI solutions. It has, I think, more than 2,000 entries in there. So there's more than 2,000 platforms doing AI solutions, which is crazy. You know what I mean? I tend to go to the local open source type of solutions because first, the things really start, the innovation really start and happens in there. Uh, I love the open sourceness mindset of like everybody helping each other and growing together. And I'm not a big fan of government and capitalism, so I think it fits in that area too. Uh, and I'm using mainly ComfyUI, which is basically a tool that you can build your own AI solution. So you kind of plug nodes together, linking them, and depending on which nodes you mix and match, you get different results. So you can have a workflow that builds a series of icons for apps, for example, and with changing three or four nodes in the same workflow, you can start to make this workflow to transform these icons into 3D assets. Or you can clean it all up and start from zero, completely new workflow that will create images based on the client logo or animations or like the possibilities are literally infinite because there's so many people developing new things for it and so little time for people to test it and plug it and come up with solutions. So for me, we're kind of using AI in a dumb way right now, which is to just do what we are doing in the past faster. And honestly, this is like 10% of AI power for me. What is interesting is like what new we can create, what new ways of generating things we can create, and this type of stuff. So what I've been working right now is like thinking how to create a pipeline of animated videos production. So like how to create a ComfyUI workflow that generates, the background, and you can have control in the pose of the character in a frame by frame kind of situation. And then take these frames and animate and generate a short scene that is realistic. So that something that it doesn't exist right now, which is quite exciting. Like nobody has that built, at least as far as I know. Someone might have in their computer really hidden, but until now that there's no news about it. So it's really interesting and nice to be able to work on something that doesn't exist. It's quite scary too because you don't know if you'll be able to do it or not and how how much time it'll take. But it's basically these challenges that are motivating me more and more to go into AI, and that's why I choose ConfyUI because there is the place where I can build these solutions that are unique and different. Like, and almost all the tools that are out there, like Pika, Runway, Leonardo, almost all of them, they are using Stable Diffusion.
So, Mauricio, have you heard about the new Chat GPT 4.0 from OpenAI that was announced yesterday?
Yeah, yeah, quite exciting. Like, just wake up today, start testing it. I think it's quite interesting what it can do. And I think the timing is also a little bit interesting. Like after all the fuzz about OpenAI not being open source and free, they released this. I clearly see this as a response. And of course, I mean, soon they will release ChatGPT 5, which will be probably paid and probably way better. But it was quite interesting to see the gaps that AI does, like almost at each 6 months. So right now we are way closer to AGI than we were before. It's quite chatty, the chat, the real time thing. It talks a lot, so you kind of have to set the pace and set the rules in the beginning to have a more pleasant conversation. Like kind of had to give it the information about how you like to talk to people or how you like it to respond to you. So it works for you perfectly. But apart from that, like the tests I did was quite great, like real time translation and like the ability to portray human emotion. You still can see a little bit of, can feel, let's call it, a little bit of fakeness, I think, of like robotic feeling on it, but it's a great job. Like it's a little bit like the movie Her. It's on that level almost, I think. But let's see what will come out from it. Like it's the interesting part is free, so I want to see what people will do with its API. You know, what will people will plug in into, what will build with it, how we will train it with these new capabilities to like create new interesting things. I think, for example, a great start use case is like real-time avatars. You know, imagine like you're going to a museum which has the exposition of Van Gogh, you know, and you have like a video of a real time Vincent Van Gogh guy that answer you the questions, which is a model trained on his whole life, personality, and everything about him. So like he's there to have a talk to you about his work and things like that. Like these things are start to getting more and more possible with these new technological releases that come out. So I think it's a great leap they announced yesterday, and great that they made it free for everybody. And yeah, just really excited to what we can build with it from now on.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's a lot of it's. I'd say the update is more bringing it onto like a human level in terms of the interaction. That's what I took away from it was definitely the voice side of it. Definitely the model has improved and the message limits and all that sort of stuff. But the main takeaway for me was the audio aspect. Talking to it in a way, like you said, that's literally what I thought yesterday. Like the movie Her, yeah, it's probably not quite there yet because obviously in the movie Her, there's really no interruptions in the conversation. It is feels like he's just talking to a human on his phone, but it is getting close to that. And ChatGPT 4 didn't come out that long ago. So again, I'm excited in the next 6 to 12 months what the new updates and features will bring for ChatGPT. So like, well, what's the most exciting feature for you in the ChatGPT 4.0 update? That you're really excited about, and is it anything to do with art?
Yeah, so I think I think on the movie Her, for example, if you remember at the beginning of the movie, the assistant was quite robotic and fake, and more to the middle and to the end, it starts to get really human and like to a point where it blends with the reality. I think this is a little bit of the situation. We will learn a little bit of how we like to communicate and do the same. And for me, I think it's the same thing that you said. It's the way to interact with it, which was the biggest change and biggest innovation, especially like for the normal day-to-day people that are not like tech savvy. For them, this type of things is really make the whole difference. Like be able to operate it in a way that is natural and simple. I think that's quite powerful. And the usages, I think I gave the art example, but it's just a beginning. You know what I mean? It can be from that to like build personalities around assistants that are specialized in your traits. So you can have like a fashion uh, specialist that knows all about you, your tastes, your measurements, what you like, and to give like we can do this today already, but it's like it's not a normal and natural interaction. It's computational, it's digital, it's like it has a barrier, which is the 2D flat screen aspect, you know and by bringing something that has some humans aspect to it, some uh, human looks, some personality, some traits, you start to breaking this barrier, start to interacting with the machine in a natural way, which for me is the biggest challenge until now. And great solutions are coming in that way. And one thing that's really really important, I think, it's there is no enough study yet on the language and communicational side, like the talking with the system of someone talk, another person listens, and that creates a communication is so flawed, like it's almost impossible to represent exactly what you want to portray just with words. That's why we as human created a bunch of other things, from like music, dance, art, poetry, written word, like lots of other things to be able to express those feelings and things that we have inside of us that we cannot with just words. It's just too limited. Vocabulary is too limited to express our humanity. So we create these other types of things that help us express that. So with AI, we are getting to a point where we are able to achieve the basic, more flawed level of communication. So I want to see what's next. Like how can we can communicate the more abstract and like cultural creative side of us with the machine, and how it will respond, because that for me creates new possibilities and new points of views that I may never been able to think about before. So I think what excites me to put in a summary everything, what excites me more about this news is the way that we're interacting with the machine is changing to a more natural way. And I'm excited about the next steps on that communication language side.
So yeah, obviously with ChatGPT 4.0, especially the comparison that you made a few minutes ago with her, it definitely does feel like. And I think ChatGPT and AI tools have always had that feeling to them when you use it. That okay, that's what they could get to. I'm sure you've heard of the other AI products, AI Pin by Humane, and the Rabbit R1 orange device. Uh, do you think this is ChatGPT's maybe response to what some of those other companies are doing? And do you think ChatGPT, I mean OpenAI, I should say, do you think OpenAI might release some sort of physical hardware device, or partner with a company to release a hardware device that might be wearable potentially, so that way you can be using AI all the time and it's getting data from everywhere?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for that to happen, and if it's done right, it can be really beneficial for everybody. If it's done wrong, it will be like a real problem. So I don't think OpenAI will tap into the wearables and hardware thing, but it's just an opinion. I have no data about it. It's just a hinge. But there's a lot of rumors and people talking about how OpenAI will integrate Chat GPT 4.0 into Apple products, for example, like Apple Vision. Uh, And by having an API, even if it's not like 100% free, it already allows any wearable company to like integrate ChatGPT on it. And with the real time thing, I think will be like a huge race for people to launch the first one that really works. You know what I mean? I think it's what you describe. It's just like the next AI war, let's call it, which people try to launch as fast as possible. Something that will do all the things that you described. So like understand everything around you, capture the data, start to give you hints, start to give you some tips and everything. The problem is with the race to like release it soon, the safety parts and like the operational parts of it always come last. And that's the big problem of it. So it's a little bit like it's super exciting, but also super scary what can come next. Uh, it will all depend on what people's intention will be, right? But I think it could be really beneficial if we use it for good. I mean, even like simple AI that we have right now is it has some really interesting and beneficial cases. And for me, like until this ChatGPT 4.0, there was not really much an truly AI product out there in the sense of none of the AI things released until now learn by itself, like and evolves by itself. They are all dependent on they capture data from the user, but then the team, the human team behind of it, get that data, prepare it, train the model, update the model, and that become the new version of the AI. So that whole process for me, why it was not done automatically by AI is kind of the definition of not AI, you know what I mean? So that's another point that really excites me about this open AI news is the first showcase of truly really AI that real time adapt, learns, and do things for you. You know, so it's it's really a big jump, and we will like allow lots of new solutions and like ideas and this and really technological advancements to happen. Like I can imagine next year advertise Cannes Festival to be filled with real-time AI responses or brands reliving some great figure from the past and having real conversations with people and this kind of things. Like I'm sure that will happen in the next few months. And the wearable thing, which captures data, which you mentioned, it's going to be released really soon too. Like with the technology now, it's just a matter of who can figure out how to put all the pieces together and launch it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. We're gonna see that very soon, where they're gonna, in a way, resurrect somebody in AI and have some sort of conversation with them as you'll just be on stage. And then I can imagine something like ChatGPT going on the store, and you can either download for free or purchase it for like a couple of quid. Abraham Lincoln, for example, or Mahatma Gandhi, or someone like that. Where people where there's either footage or there's a lot of text and literature from them, so they can create a very very accurate model. And yeah, that's definitely going to happen. Like, who would you like to uh you know see and be able to talk to using AI?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Someone that can realistically, they can do, because obviously if it's someone from, like 3,000 years ago, and there's not much, text from them, like
Yeah.
at that point, a lot of it will probably be made up. But someone for, like in the last 100 years, where either there's footage or a lot of, first hand, written text, it's a lot more
Mhm.
doable.
Yeah, yeah. I will go that far anyways. I think we have in our center great minds. I would love to have a talk with like John Lennon. I love the Beatles, so I would love to resurrect him. Or like, I mean, Einstein, in the end of his career, the whole obsession about how the God mind works and everything else is secondary. I think that's super interesting. love to have a coffee with him about you know. What about you?
For me, it would be Nikola Tesla,
Oh
the
yeah.
scientist. And again, I think there's enough documentation and written text out there to actually create a relatively accurate model of his
Mhm.
as well. So, like, obviously, there'll be people from before there, philosophers and scientists and world leaders. But again, if there's not much text, at that point, it will be pretty, made up. The other, side of it isn't just people that are no longer around. It's people that are alive today, and them, people feeding that data is, especially if they're working with them with their permission into models ready for when they're no longer around, and it'll be as if it is the exact person because he was trained specifically with that purpose in mind. So I think that's something that won't pan out for many decades in a way, just for the simple reason people are still alive. But if you got someone 30, 40 years old that's doing cool, interesting things, and they're recording their voice, they're recording the interaction video even, so the AI can learn the mannerisms, how they walk, how they interact, their social cues. And then let's say in 40 years once they pass away, they literally just release the AI, or let's say the family does, and it'll be as if it's still them. And I think this will be very interesting for something like movies or music, where it's one thing, you see them on stage putting some sort of hologram of someone like Tupac or Michael Jackson, something like that. But versus it being trained specifically, using someone that's alive, and when they pass away, they just continue doing shows, and not just singing old stuff, but because it's been trained with them in mind, and it's literally like them, they're still making songs. Like the AI is now them. The AI is now making songs or starring in movies, and it's still generating money for the family, for example. So I think that'll be another interesting part of it. It's a bit more long term, but I think that's something we'll be going to as well.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And like right now, I can literally open a company that, hey, I create the digital version of your relative that may die in the next 5 years. You just go there and collect a bunch of data, and like in 5 years, sure, we have the technology to build that. So you maybe see even companies starting out with like literally selling nothing. They will just sell the data capture, and then in the future they will build a solution that doesn't even exist. You know what I mean? But you know it's possible, and I think everything that you talk about is possible with this new technology. The question that ponders my mind is, do we want to a famous artist which is no longer with us continue creating new music as it's not him? Like, it will be an AI replicating his style and everything else. Like, who will operate this AI? You know what I mean? Who gives the human touch to it? And that will be only the artist? I don't think so. It will be something else. So for me, I think it's super interesting when you get like, again, reliving John Lennon's voice from a tape from the 70s and make a new music from Beatles. Awesome. Linkin Park releasing new song from, again, old recordings and things like that using the AI technology. Awesome. Also awesome. But I think the creative part is what belongs to us. You know what I mean? So for me, I don't see much. I don't get much excited to like have a AI John Lennon spitting new music. I prefer to think in ways of how to use AI to teach a new generation of kids to like do the things that John Lennon did and like has his free mind and openness to music than to like replicate him. It's more about replicating and spreading and allowing his legacy to be absorbed and learned by more people, so they can take this and build another thing, and then can build these things with AI. There's no problem for me with that. But just like the automation and the robotical side of like faking someone, I don't see the appeal. And I see a big problem in that because it's a lot where people will be going. Uh, right now, like fake news is a gigantic problem. You know what I mean? Before AI, and with AI, it's even easier. So like how it can.
Yeah, I think one of the I think there's a few interesting things, now that we do, I was talking about the AI and music, is one, I think you'll create a whole new genre of music where listeners, consumers don't care that it's created by AI. They may actually want it created by AI. How in music you get new genres, and there's some genres that you'll like, but then there'll be some genres that you don't like, but then there'll be those genres will be really liked and loved by other people. I think you'll get an element of that. You know how you get songs now where there's heavy auto tune, and a lot of it is computerized anyway, and when you listen to the lyrics or the singer performing without the auto tune, they sound terrible. I think just the way those songs can do well, I think songs with AI have the potential to do well as well. I think it'll be a whole nother genre, and obviously that point that you made about someone like John Lennon. Yeah, I agree. I think for that it'll be less about him releasing new songs, and more if they have him in some sort of AI, you can maybe interact with him, talk to him, maybe try and get some insight, and him redo the same songs as some sort of performance. But you know it'll be interesting when the lines get blurred between what a human is creating and what a human is using AI as a tool to create. Because right now we were just talking about human creating it, then the human no longer being around, then the AI creating it. But just as humans are using more and more technology to create stuff, especially music, you'll get artists, and I'm sure you probably do right now, but you'll definitely get artists that, though they're active, though they're alive and working, some songs or huge parts of the songs they're not even writing. Like right now, most artists don't even write their own songs anyway. Like they're written by other people, and then so sometimes a lot of the music's performed by other people as well. So I think it'll be like that. They'll have AI, write the lyrics. They'll sing some songs themselves. Maybe if they have an album, they might sing two of the songs, then the other 10 they might get the AI to do it, because they'll release sing the two, let's say the big main ones that they know that will probably be the big hitters, and the other sort of side tracks. Each album has that. Like there's one or two songs that everyone loves, everyone's always remembers, and the other songs you might like them, but you probably can't remember the names. And I think that'll be interesting, and then at that point you're already listening to AI songs, but it just happens to be while the person's alive. It happens to be with their permission and consent and them doing it. Then it's a matter of what's the difference between them retiring and no longer having any involvement, or passing away and no longer having any involvement, or them selling the rights, but the music still gets, it's still getting created. Because you see that all the time. Like my wife's a fan of Justin Bieber, and he a few months ago or about a year ago he sold the rights to his music. But obviously in an AI world, the rights could get sold, but new songs could still be coming out via the new owners now. So I think that's definitely something. It'll be interesting space that us as society will navigate and explore.
Yeah, man, I think for sure. I agree with you with what you say. I think in the end, people doesn't really care where it comes out the things. And honestly, if it makes me feel something, I don't care either. You know what I mean? How it's produced. Uh, and I think that will definitely happen, which like the balance between AI and human will happen. Like, oh, we'll take care of these more important parts, and AI will take care of these more boring parts for me. That will definitely work super well in the future. For me, the music part of AI right now, for example, is really hard because different from the video and image generation part, you kind of just give it a feeling. It's you don't have much control, while like in image generation you can like literally pose the character, give the descriptions of the character, give the exact colors, framing, everything. Like you have way more control, and while in the music you don't. So I would love to see an AI tool that really works with the artists. Like I could say like the notes, I could hum the melody, I could like do the musical creative part, and the AI like accelerate the process to transform it into some digital version of that sound that will represent and create the music. I think that could be incredible, you know what I mean? And we will like open possibilities for people that cannot maybe do music or don't have access to instruments or don't have a way to do it, to do in a simpler, easiest way. Like same thing with AI for images and videos, like to produce a painting, for example, you need to like study a lot and have like the materials, and like they're quite expensive, you know what I mean? So it's not everybody that can afford it, but anyone has a cell phone that usually has some internet access or can access for some library or some place like this, and they can access some free apps that they can generate images that they could not before. You know what I mean? So I think that's the real power of AI, like opening the doors of like creative process to anyone independent of where they are from and their financial situation. I think that's quite powerful and quite interesting. And I'm sorry, man, I diverged from your question because I got excited from the what you've been telling before. Can you repeat it, please?
Oh yeah, so now I mean you have touched on the question, and I find obviously that's the point of the conversation. Obviously, I was just talking about the AI tools, and obviously the artist side, and them actively making music with it, and then at that point, if they're already generating whole songs, what's the difference between them having no involvement and the AI just doing it itself? But you touched on a really interesting point. Something that I've had issues with when using AI is
Hmm.
there's not much sort of modularity to it. There's not much sort of customization right now, especially like if I go on Chat GPT, I generate some image. If it's not what I want and I ask it to do some, to try and do something else or update it really just generates a whole new image. Like that's
Hmm.
not what I want. Like it might just be I want the top 10% of it black. I just want the color change. Something like that. Or if I say, every piece of white in there, change it to black. Or every piece of
Hmm.
red in there, change it to blue. Like that sort of stuff it can't do yet. And it's not just about it generating an image and then me interacting with it. It's about, okay, I might have this image already from some other source I need to edit. Going into Photoshop manually when I might not have the original Photoshop file, for example, could be, painful, especially if the image is, let's say a 4K image. There's a lot of things
Hmm.
that I have to change. If I could just put it into the AI and say, all, hues of blue, change it to red, like something like that, that's what I really want to see. And having a more kind of interactive, semi-programmatic approach to it. Because one thing when I use tools like Photoshop, that I'm not an artist by any stretch of imagination. I'm a computer programmer by trade. So though I've got decent Photoshop and like Premiere Pro skills, I picked them up over the years, and it doesn't come as natural to me as does software development or some sort of engineering like that. So when I'm using it, sometimes I'm using it. I'm thinking it'd be so much quicker if I could kind of programmatically tell the Photoshop what to do instead of me, manually drawing all these, squares, on some image, for example. If I have to do like 100 squares, I know I can copy and paste, but like if I could just programmatically say, every 10 pixels or every 100 pixels, do this and then change the color after this, like I could do that in a matter of minutes versus something that might take hours. And that's the sort of level of interaction I want to see with these AI tools, especially when they get, integrated into existing tools. Because right now, I think that, and I'm a firm believer in this, ChatGPT and other tools where you have to go to a specific website will not be as popular as when the AI sort of functionality is integrated into everyday tools like Photoshop, like Microsoft Word. They're in the process of doing that. They're doing those things. But when it's truly baked in, and it's not even called AI anymore. Because right now it's like it's the new AI feature in this thing, but in Photoshop, when they release a new feature, if the feature has a name, but it doesn't talk about the underlying technology to try and advertise that feature. It's just, oh, it's a certain type of new crop or a certain type of eraser, and it has some fancy name to it. That's it. When AI is like that, where it's like new selection or new paint, tool, multi paint tool, something like that, and but it's AI baked in and it has a level of interaction that you couldn't do before. I think that's when we'll get to a point where AI has just taken over into all aspects of day to day technology, when it's you don't know that it's AI powered, because right now everything is just advertised as AI powered to sell it, whereas when it gets to the point of this is a feature, you don't need to know if it's AI powered, you just know it's better than the rest.
Yeah, 100%, man. AI has become the selling trendy word for sure, but not everything is really, really truly AI. Uh, I 100% agree with you that will become really beneficial when it's integrated into what we already use. But I also think that what we already use, it's super flawed. So I think it will be more about open source companies and small startups which will create the thing that you need and release as a simple to use, easy to install solution. You know what I mean? Like I think you, for example, will really, really love to operate ConfUI because from the example that you gave, you have an image that is not even produced with AI, and you need to select all the blacks and change them to the whites. On ConfUI, if you have Python knowledge, in like a matter of minutes, you create a node that identify in the image based on a hue value the points, mask them, and change them to this other hue value. Like you can literally do the code, create a node in like 30 minutes, plug in into ConfUI, and it will do what you just programmed. You know what I mean? And then you can reuse this node how many times you want. You can update and things like that. So this thing already exists. This mode of operating AI already exists. It's called ConfUI, and that's why I get so excited about it because it's such a beautiful thing, but it's so hard to install and operate and everything. So it's not for any type of user that has no experience with code or like 3D or anything like that. So it's really a big barrier to enter that. But people are doing really, really interesting things in that scenario already. And companies are start to take a look at that and start to take an investment in these people. And generating literally new solutions that are like alive, that they're organic and change based on the needs of your client and yourself as a developer or designer or content creator. Like this is the incredible power, and that's why I go fully on open source and local things, because you can literally create the solution you need, and that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I've seen Comfy UI and it is pretty amazing, what it's doing. But like you said, it's a bit, cumbersome to set up. You require some technical, knowledge just to get it set up, let alone using the feature. But I think this is the first step, and like you're saying with the open source side, it's the first step of things tinkering before it becomes a closed system like Adobe. Because if you go on Photoshop, it has all, like let's say, on the left hand side, if that's where you put the, all the different features, by default, that's where it is. All the different features that are there, they are by no stretch of the imagination every single feature that somebody could think of for editing images. Yet, they are enough for the vast majority of applications or users to get the job done. And I think this is what tools like Comfy UI that have this sort of node and flowchart graph based system is people are going to start creating these nodes, these systems where, like I said, you can replace a color or you can programmatically, put a block every, 10 pixels or something like that with some, customization. And then either that company itself will probably get funded and you'll have its own tool, or something like Adobe will see what's happening and then they'll literally integrate that in and they'll just have a new set of features. And or something like Chat GPT, you'll be able to go on there because right now you can upload an image, it can analyze the image and it can, you can have some interaction with it. But I think how now you have the new Chat GPT 4.0 where, if you go onto the app and you press like the listen button, the voice button, it has a slightly different interface. It is kind of a different application at that point. I think that's what you'll get with ChatGPT. You'll be able to upload the image. You'll go to into sort of more of like an image editing Photoshop style interface, and from that you'll have probably a set of 10 to 20 different tools and features that will resemble typical features in tools like Photoshop, but they'll be heavily AI powered, heavily trained using this sort of node system and on some of the LLMs, and you'll be able to edit your image but using this new AI tool now. And then they'll have a feature, I believe, where you can integrate and create your own nodes or your own features, whatever they call it, and you'll be able to train that the way you're training GPTs now, where you're talking to it, getting it to do what you want it to do. You'll be able to do that with these new, let's say, you know, artwork GPTs, for example, and you'll be able to integrate them into this software. Then I think you'll probably get other software that'll say, you know what, we want to be able to integrate with the GPTs. OpenAI might make them open, or it might be a store where you can literally download the GPT. It might be like a .gpt file, and you can import that in because you can import stuff into like Word or into Photoshop or some sort of plugins. I think you'll be able to. I think that'll be the next few years as well. These tools not just being a closed system where everything that you create is in itself, but everything that you create you can export and then share, and then other tools can import it in just the way. Because and I think the other interesting part is because Microsoft is heavily invested in it, and Microsoft generally a lot of their tools you can export files like a Word, for example. Then you could import them into Google Docs, LibreOffice, OpenOffice, or some other word processing software. I think Microsoft in the background, if they're not already, they will have a push where they'll say, we want to be able to export some of the sort of proprietary stuff in some sort of bundle, like a .gpt bundle, and allow other users to import it. That way, everyone by default will be using our extension and our format. Therefore, we will win even if people are not directly using our software. I think that if they don't, I think they'll miss a trick. I think that's one way for them to really go crazy on the market share and ensure that they're the number one player, which they kind of already are, but like just to make sure that, because right now it's still kind of wild west with AI. It's like, okay, ChatGPT is doing this, it's pretty cool. Midjourney is doing this, it's pretty cool. But a lot of software, a lot of companies and people aren't really integrating it into their workflow. They're concerned about it. Obviously the copyright issues, how to use it. Is it going to be something that's still going to be around in 5-10 years? I think it will, but like there's these concerns. But I think you'll get to a point where it is, just the way Google has search. like there will always really be a search engine. There's a search engine. I think there will be a one or two big major platforms for AI, and I think you'll get some closed ones like app that are like more like an Apple ecosystem. Then you'll get some open ones that are a bit more like Android or Microsofty, where you can export and share like the exes or the images, and in this case the gpts, for example. Like, what's your thoughts on that? Like, where do you think you see all of this going with all these different tools to really become mass market and accepted and usable by all the different companies? Like, and what do you think they need to do?
I think story will repeat itself again, and will be like you said. I don't think big companies will go open source or allow them their operative system to become open source or like open to integrations. I think people are crazy about that, and they will always try to like close stuff and keep secrets and hide things, especially because 90% of the cases like someone did something really shady, you know what I mean? Like, for example, the Adobe Firefly thing. They even said that if you have legal problems by using one image generating their service, they will cover the costs. And then like few months later, news come out that they were using uncopyrighted imagery to their models. They used Midjourney image to train their models, while they said they used just their stock photos, which is not true. So it's quite complicated because everything on the big company side for me always have a shady side. Like 90% of the AI solutions right now is literally using the open source things that people release by just stealing from the open source community, getting funding, and building like a really bad platform over it, not developing anything new, and just push it to the user so the user can do something flashy and different that's honestly useless in the end of the day. So for me, it's just a lot of people that are good in sales and get investment, like building companies. And you have like a few players in the background really building something interesting and something focused on innovation and technology. Like even Mid Journey, which has no investment and like is, let's call it self-sufficient, uh, always focus on the quality side of their generations and everything, even if they take more time than the competition. Like I think that's a great approach. And like the open source community, which again, as I told you before, start to get being seen by companies and not just exploited but invested in. That's when the big changes will start to come out, you know what I mean? Right now I think the great majority of people, the great mass usage of AI will come from big companies for sure. Will be continuing be Apple, will be continuing be OpenAI, Google, and Microsoft with their AI implications, just because that's how the market is. You know what I mean? So people outside of the tech bubble, like for them, AI is just a flashy word. They don't really know what it's capable of and what it can do and how it can help them and all these kind of things. They don't, they don't care actually. And all they want is like a new solution, something that makes their life easier, better, more interesting. They want to keep entertained. They want to be keep connected. So anything that serves that purpose, they will use, but they're not worried about going and finding the best one that will do the best result with best control because they don't care. Like, that's is the, let's say, the job and the life of artists and creative people and this type of things which create these solutions. So the big masses will go to the big companies. More creative, innovative people will go open source and close it and open shareable systems that create solutions for everybody. I think that's where everyone will be going in the future.
So we've touched on it a bit. The copyright aspect of it, and especially as you're an artist or you're using AI tools, you are an artist. You get a lot of artists that are very concerned about the copyright. Now, what's your stances on this? Around the copyright of you using a tool. You producing images, then you using those images in something commercial, trying to sell, say a game or a website that's charging users for money, but it's using AI generated artwork. What's your concerns or thoughts around copyright? Because I know a lot of people are very concerned about this.
Yeah, so I think there's the two sides of story, of course. The artist side, it's clearly understandable, but it's also clearly misled to the wrong target. You know what I mean? Like AI is a technology. So the problem is with the people that are using. I can use AI and produce something that infringes copywriting or not. It depends on how I use it, how I do it, which tools I select to use. You know what I mean? There's a lot of small bits that make the whole thing happen that will lead me to create something that is a copyright infringement or not. About the fact that the large language models for video, image, and everything are trained on the internet data, I don't see as a problem because it doesn't use this material to build things. Like it doesn't get a part from the image. It doesn't copy that thing and build it again. It understands it, what it is. It understands the definition, the text behind, the language behind that image, and based on the request from the user, it reproduces based not on one image or one artist itself, but on a vast, gigantic data set of things, exactly as we humans do. Any painter study paint history of art, I hope, and they learn about Van Gogh and Da Vinci and Michelangelo and all the great painters, and they see their paintings. That's the exact same process of training AI on the internet thing. Is showcasing the internet the things. Just that, you're showcasing the AI. Look, this is what art is. This is what Van Gogh did. This is the technique he's used, and this thing is not like copy this thing. You know what I mean? So basically, the people that are against AI, like by being training on open data, it's a little bit out of sense to me, unless they are an artist that is completely like I've never entered the internet before, I never read a book before. I just get a pencil from my dad and a notebook, and I like draw things based on nature. That maybe will be like someone that can complain about that, but otherwise you've been exposed to all this type of arts and influences that you have before in the same way that AI does, and nobody's complaining about your work. You know what I mean? So that's the aspect that I don't agree with the complainings from the artists and the copyright side. The aspect that I agree is when people start to just copying others' styles and copying others' ideas and just generating, like using to cut costs. That's when the AI copyright infringement starts to get really visible and really bad. You know what I mean? Because it's, for me, it is not what AI is intended to, but of course people will try to exploit that and use for their own good. But before AI, you go to like almost any city in the world, it has like this really cheap stores which will sell a nickel, not a Nike shoe, like for 1/10 of the price. People are doing this since the beginning of time. Stop to freak out about AI. It's not what will completely change the thing and steal your job. It's a technology. It's something that needs someone to operate. Maybe someone that is smart enough to study story of art and learn all the things that are necessary to properly operate AI and use it to create great pieces. Maybe that person will steal your job, but AI and the technology will not. It's impossible.
I think that's a really good point that you made about, you can go and buy Nike trainers for like, like 100 British pounds, and then you could go and buy some fake ones for probably like 20 somewhere. And
Mhm.
sometimes they're literally they're made to look the same, as sometimes, they're, clearly a knockoff, but they're a different company, but you can tell what they're, originally copying.
Yeah.
And and so many times it's not even in stores that are dodgy, or sources that are dodgy. Like I'll go to like a big supermarket chain, and if I go to the clothes section, I'll see a pair of trainers, and I'm like, I know that I can just tell by looking at. I had this, about a year or so ago. I was in Tesco in the UK, and
Mhm.
I saw a pair of trainers for kids, and I was like, they so look like the Nike Pandas, the trainers that were really popular about a year or so. They still are, but like they were really popular then. I was like, you could tell what they've copied from and inspired from. Nobody was up in arms about that. And again, that's not even somebody trying to sell it, on a market stall, or on some shady website. That's a big £1 billion supermarket chain clearly having copied that. Obviously, they're doing it at a heavily reduced cost because it's not the exact logo. The
Mhm.
design is slightly different. The quality is inferior, but it is the same. And again, that's more of a human people issue, because, like you said, it's been like that since people have been making stuff. People copy, and the other aspect of, and I totally agree. This is the thing that the reasoning I always use when people talk about copyright and AI is people use their past experiences to create creative work, whether that's creative work in the form of images, in the form of music, even in the form of programming in games, whatever it is.
Mhm.
Somebody at some point has seen or learned from somebody. It's like when you go to art school, you learn art at university. One of the things that they're first asking you to do is copy literally this famous artist. They're like, first, can you copy what's already there? At that point, then make your own additions to modify slightly, and then you make your own. But if you've been copying certain artists and you've been modifying their work, you're probably going to be heavily influenced by that style of art, because that's
Mhm.
what you've been doing. If you do more classical artwork versus pixel art, or versus more sort of futuristic art style all the time, your art is obviously going to be shaped like that. It's like when you watch a movie and you see a director, director some movie, and then all the movies have like, even if the movies are heavily different, they have a certain tone and vibe and certain, style to it. That's because that's what they learned and that's what they latched onto. Same
Yeah.
with music. You very, very rarely do you get a country singer singing rap songs and then singing pop songs. Like,
Mhm.
there'll be the odd, example, but like they're not constantly switching, and it's because they would have learned country music initially. They would have, gravitated towards it, but then they would have been listening to other country singers. They would have been replicating them. Like they literally would have been probably doing their songs and trying to get their vocals as good as they can, in line with the original, and then adding their twist to it, and then making their own music. And at that point, you still can argue that they have copied, they have, you just use that, but again, they've modified it, for them. So yeah, I think a lot of the thing about the copyright side of it, especially as an individual artist, and it's like, I don't think that's that much of an issue. It should obviously still be something that we think about the legalities of it. The other side of it is, right now, obviously, companies are very hesitant in using these tools, rightfully so, because they don't know how the legalities are going to turn out. But I hope that this sort of resolves itself soonish over the next year or so, because there's so many great tools out there that employers just aren't getting their employees to use, because they let's say programming, for example. If you get a bunch of code, you put into Chat GPT, it does an amazing job of analyzing it, of maybe writing some solution or figuring out some problem in the code. There's a lot of things that it can do, but
Mhm.
you've got to put, let's say, a file, into the model, and then that raises concerns of, is that file something that is obviously, you know, under contract private for a particular company, and then where that model, even though they might say that, oh, it's not used for training, it's everything that you're putting in obviously is used for training. Because I don't know, have you seen in the new Chat GPT, in the drop down, there's a temporary chat option? Have you seen that?
Yeah, 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 definitely.
Yeah,
It's
because
quite
I've
interesting.
just literally just clicked on it, because when you click on it, it says chat won't appear in history or be used to train our models. And I think that's very interesting, because they had previously said that what you put in isn't used to train the models. Your input. Clearly it
Mhm.
was. And that's obviously a concern for employers. Where is that data going? Could, the company turn around and try and use that, or maybe end up accidentally pumping that out to some other person that's using it. And but again, I think they're missing a trick, because there's so much you know leverage that they can have over over their competitors. If they do use these AI tools, they can heavily improve their workflow. And I think that's a main thing that a lot of companies need to figure out right now, is how can we use AI right now without these concerns, but still enhancing what we're doing. So without having to heavily put in, data into it, for example. So I think that's something that's it's going to be interesting how we as a society and how organizations navigate that.
Yeah, I think there's some really interesting points in the things you said. I think first thing is like let's understand what training really is for the type of model, and of course, I can be 100% wrong here, and they can be using this data to other purposes. But right now, how the model works is if you input a document in your ChatGPT in London with an information that is super secretive that nobody has in the internet, it's not there, so it's just in this document that you're uploading. Okay, it's about a brand. Let's say it's about Nike. You upload that document, have your conversation, and close up. Ta-na-na. The next day, if I go into ChatGPT and ask about that information, it won't tell me. You know what I mean? It's not how it works. It's not like because you input that everybody has access to it. What they will do is like they will use the information that to train the next generation of models, which will probably carry that information if you really search about it. You know what I mean? And maybe even not that, because the main focus of the training is about not like check information, but how to produce cohesive and effective responses to people. So it will more analyze the grammatical information, how the sentences are made for that brand, how is the tone of voice, like more details around the data itself for the training again than the information itself. If the company will get the data and use for another purpose apart from this specific way of training that they are doing, that's another story. And I believe they can use. They shouldn't, but they probably would. I believe they shouldn't, but it is how it is. But right now, like the training process is not as bad as people think it is, and the openness to to infringement of copyright and like to leak sensitive information is not as bad as people think it is. On that note, there is lots of other options to work local. For example, in ConfUI, you can create a version of ChatGPT using ChatGPT API and downloading the model for your workflow, which it doesn't feed anything into it, it just receives. or you have the all LLM uh, feature and application from NVIDIA, which literally has lots of large language models that operate inside your computers 100% local. You have lots of ways to control data nowadays. Of course, you're exposed as everyone to hacks and these kind of things. That's something that you cannot do. AI is not there yet, like to prevent this kind of things. I think maybe even will be helpful, help the hackers to code faster. But as I see the copywriting and the sensible information worries from clients as a super valid question and something that all the companies should be looking at and trying to come with more effective solutions. There is already solutions in place that we can use to keep it as much safe as we can for now.
So obviously with all the tools, do you ever have that concern when you're putting something in? It's different when you're just kind of asking a question like it's Google. Not that, but if you're uploading a file and you wanted to analyze some document that you generally would just put online for free for people to just look at, or an image, do you ever have concerns about how it's being used or where it could end up, or are you like trusting enough in the tools that you feel like it's not going to really go anyway, even if it's used to train a model, the specifics won't go out. Like, how do you feel about this? Because again, the last thing you want is you to upload some documentation, maybe this is some sort of contract or something, and you don't quite understand it. It helps you understand it, gives you an overview, but then somehow the model gets flawed and it starts pumping it out in people's responses as an example, for example. So what's your stance on that?
Yeah, for me, it actually never happened. So I may be not the right person to ask that. But if I'm really worried about sensitive things, I would just keep 100% local. That's my take on everything right now. Like keep it local and not local and controllable. So it's 100% safe to every part involved. But I also think like there's a lot of people worried about my information being internet. Actually, that information that you worry about already is in internet in a lot of different ways that you input it there. So I think there is an over exaggeration worry about it. And people some people actually like of the benefits of like getting the information out there, which is like personalization and right suggestions made by ads and by AIs itself in that sense. So I always try to take care and control of the things. So I never faced that specific situations in a sense, but I think that's it. It's like analyze the situation really in like how really sensitive is that information, what's the measures that we need to take to still use that and have effective and good responses that are not just opinions from others that the AI learned, you know what I mean? Like that is really based on facts. There's a lot of ways to like tailor that for the from the AI models, you know what I mean? So I think it's about identifying the level of security you need to have, the level of response and assertiveness you need from the AI, and work on learn how to get that level by yourself. Because one interesting point about AI is usually you can use it to learn how to operate itself, you know what I mean? So I was using ChatGPT to learn about AI, what AI is, how it's trained, how it works, how the ChatGPT model works, how stability AI models work. So I get immersed and learn about it using it. You know what I mean? Of course, it always comes from, you always have to be attentive to like, is this thing that is coming out from the ChatGPT real? Is it a fact? Is it really what it is? And usually with like asking the same question to different GPTs or different AI chatbots will give you a sense. Doing a quick search and getting some like Wikipedia facts and other sources to like analyze if it's really that or not. Or the best one, like, can you have access to an expert in there to get like, just give a quick look on the page and numbers and date and see if it's okay or not. That will always be like, if it's something for a client, I always go for the expert route to like try to find someone to quickly analyze things. And based on that, I start to tweak my interaction with AI or not. But usually these are my two approaches. Like, first, really understand the problem level of security level of response we needed. Because like for some campaigns for clients, I may be inputting some really sensitive information, but the outcome is really just creative texts for a social campaign. So while the facts are quite important, they may not be reflected on the text, and I may want to just be have a creative response. So I need to understand each scenario, prepare for each scenario, and like search which will give me and the client the security to have like effective, good response that is real and that will not harm anyone. But again, it's a case by case situation, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely a case by case situation, and I think the other interesting thing that you spoke about is obviously sometimes the the quality of the output isn't the highest, and you using ChatGPT to learn about ChatGPT. So this is it's very interesting because when they actually yesterday ChatGPT 4.0 was announced, but today earlier on I went on to ChatGPT, went on to the 4.0 model, and I was like, let me try and see, what's new in 4.0, from ChatGPT, because I've been on the website. I feel like sometimes, the official websites aren't the best, they're great for marketing, they look good. They might not highlight all the features, they might not, explain them in a, sort of in a friendly way. So I said, what's new in 4.0? It's response. I've got to open here. It's responsible search two sites. iOS 17.4 introduces blah blah blah. Like it's like talking about iOS. Then I said, no, what's new in ChatGPT 4.0? So like at that point, you should know. It said search five sites, the latest version of ChatGPT based on ChatGPT 4.0, so ChatGPT 4, not the 4.0. And then he started interact listing all out the features, and I'm like, ChatGPT 4.0 was struggled to realize I'm asking it what's new in its own features. I feel like stuff like that clearly hasn't been hard coded in. I think some stuff needs to be hard coded in. So it's like, okay, it's asking this sort of question. This is, or even get a confirmation, say, oh, do you mean the new ChatGPT 4.0 model that was released yesterday on the 13th of May? And then you say yes, and they're like, okay, we'll just use our maybe a certain different model or a certain data preset, because it's asking not really about, we know it's not iOS, we know no, it's not ChatGPT 4 or Mid Journey or also something else online. And like I think this is very interesting because as soon as I put this in, that makes you see the flaws and the sort of downsides, so I guess the limitations of these AI tools. But sometimes you'll use them, and as you were saying, like you got to be careful with the what you're using. You got to be vigilant about it, and maybe you have to get more of a professional approach to it. Is you'll put something in, you'll put some result out that is incorrect or not fully right, but it doesn't look as bad as this. Like this result that I got, I was like, this is just stupid. Whereas I might get some result for some sort of, problem. And I'm reading, I'm like, that kind of makes sense. But it's not actually right because I don't know. So that's another thing that people have to be vigilant about. Just because the response that comes out looks professional and kind of looks like it makes sense, be vigilant, go through it, and do some due diligence yourself. Like Otherwise, you might, use a response that's just totally incorrect.
Yeah, yeah, I think 100%. And like not only in the AI landscape, like nowadays you can barely trust news, you know? Like I remember in the beginning of last year, I think it was lots of serious newspaper like portraying the Pentagon was on fire, you know, and it was just an AI image, which could easily be a photoshopped image or a 3D image, you know, and easily could be done like 10 years ago. You have the same quality, you trick people, it's exactly the same way. But nowadays, journalism is kind of in certain aspects, and I'm not talking about every single journalist in the world, but in general, as a market and a profession is becoming not so trustable as it was. You know, like people are not really checking their sources, and that's basically the thing that I recommend everyone doing with AI. Like check the sources, see if it makes sense. Like just read it out loud. You know, sometimes this thing that you just read out loud is so stupid that you're like, okay, that's clearly wrong. So you can have the take on that, but I think that touches a little bit in a really important aspect of AI human relationship for me, which is what is the purpose of AI? And the purpose of AI is to be, for me, a tool and an assistant. So I'm not using any AI to really do the work for me. I use it to like show me different points of views, to like summarize a large amount of data and give me a resume so I can really do faster, something that will take a longer time to do. But I don't use to like generate text for me as it was me, or to like overcome or like to beat my creative process. Like no, it's just a new way to operate and do my creative process. And that's I think because there's while you can teach basically everything to AI in terms of like creative process, how a painting is made, you know, what it is color correction, what it is contrast, what it is color harmony. Like you can feed it with any type of information and it will learn, and it will learn better than we humans do, and will operate better than we humans do. But it's impossible to teach to the machine taste, because we don't know ourselves. Like why do I like the color, I don't know, I love blue and you love your favorite color? You know, there is no explanation for that. There is no reasoning before, you just do. And we all carry that in us as humans. We like some things and dislike others. We like some type of music and dislike others, you know, as you were talking earlier. So that's the type of thing that you cannot teach AI, and that's what makes it impossible to like to take it your job, because you never had have the human element that is there, which is you know, and the whole life that you've been exposed as is like the model training of you as a person. Let's imagine that you are a kind of AI, will be your life, you know, everything that you see, touch, do, think, that's your training for your model, and that's unique, completely unique for each person. So that's our superpower, you know, our own experiences and lives, and that's like something that you can never teach the machine. You can show them, but it will be the same thing as showcasing a friend and experience you have. Oh, look at this nice trip I have. They will like, okay, that's a nice place, and maybe want to go there. That's a nice beach. That's beautiful, blah blah blah. But they don't feel it. They didn't experience. It's not in their database. Let's call it. You know what I mean? So that's for me, it's like the main reason why I trust so much in AI as a tool, and like to be an assistant to make my creativity to flourish, you know, and not like to do things for me, or to, you know, getting shortcuts or things like that. For me, it's not what it is about. I'm sure lots of people will use for that, and I don't think it's wrong. I just think it's not a really smart usage of it, because if you stop using your critical thinking and stop using your creativity, you become stagnated, and well, anyone will take your job, because if all you can do is like ask a machine to do things for you, well, literally anyone can do that, right? So how to keep creative, keep learning, keep improving, and using AI as a partner and a allower of these things to happen, you know.
So yeah, I mean, I kind of disagree with the the taste aspect and that human. I think it's something that AI can't do right now. I think it's something that AI and the way where it needs to get to AGI will be able to do. And I think yeah, we can't 100% explain why I like this color, why I like the taste of this food, but then I don't like the taste of this food versus someone that loves the taste of that food even though it's clearly nothing wrong with it and it's not bad for me or it doesn't it's fine for my body for example, but I just don't like it. I think that's just a matter of we don't have enough understanding of the human body, and I think once we maybe get more of an understanding of that, whether it's with AI or without it or a mixture, then I think the AI models will get better as well. And I think Phil, but I also agree with your statement of it is definitely, at least for now, a tool, and it's not about it's gonna have tastes and feelings and then it can do what we can do. No, it's about okay, somebody without AI is not as powerful as somebody that's trained and that can use AI. It's like somebody who, uses word processing tools, Excel, PowerPoint, and these other, pieces of software that's commonplace now are going to be a lot more powerful than somebody who doesn't use that, who is only writing stuff by hand, who is doing literally kind of spreadsheet, work or accounting via hand, and doing presentations via hand, and then trying to put it on, creating it big and then creating a small one, not using printers, for example. You're going to be at a severe disadvantage, and that's I think the way where AI right is right now. And I think like another interesting point that you touched on when we was talking about humans doing their research, and then you use that example of the Pentagon being on fire, but it wasn't on fire, and people are saying that it's AI created, but it could have been done 10 years ago, with some know-how in something like Photoshop. This is a human problem, not an AI or technology problem. Humans are very lazy. They don't want to do due diligence. They just want to believe what they're told. And I see all the time, like I'll see somebody and they'll show me something on like TikTok, for example, and they'll be like, look at what's happened. And they would rather spend 10 minutes explaining to me why that's correct because they've seen it on some TikTok video that has a million views than do a 10-second Google search and then show that it's not correct. Like, I will be the person be like, I see that. That seems a bit out of the ordinary. Quick Google, oh, it is actually correct, or it isn't correct. Okay, move on. Whereas other people are like, oh, that looks out of the ordinary. Let me just keep consuming, content from and information from the same source that just keeps hooking me in. And again, this is an issue with social media in society. This is an issue with technology in general, with news, and this is not an issue with AI. This is a human issue, and people do need to put more effort into researching, do due diligence on the sources, whether they're AI or not, whether they're major news channels or whether it's something you've seen on Facebook. Again, that's another thing. It's easy to sit here and to tell the listeners that if you see something on Facebook or TikTok, do your research. I think a lot of users, whether they do the research or not, will probably nod and say, that sounds good, that makes sense. Versus if you're seeing it on a big news outlet, BBC, CNN, Fox, whatever, people are less likely to do the research because they're like, these are billion, dollar organizations. They must have done their research. even if they have, it doesn't mean they don't have a certain agenda to push, or certain people don't, and people want to keep their jobs. So that's another thing, is that just because it comes in a professional package from somebody that is, that has a lot of, I guess, clout behind them, still do your research. And again, I think it falls into two camps of researching or not researching. If it's something that you don't care about, or you don't feel like it's going to affect your life, then I think you can kind of put it into the basket of, I'm not going to research it, or it doesn't need to be researched because it's not actually something I care about. But if it's something that you're going to heavily invest your time and your effort into, talking about it, or persuading other people, or believing constantly, then I think something like that, you probably should put some effort into it. It's like if you're playing a sport, if you're really into football and you want to, be active in that sport, you want to try and, be better, I think it's obviously good if you practice. It's good if you research that sport. Versus if you have a sport like golf that you don't really ever plan on going and playing, you don't care about it, you don't care about talking about it, it'll be a waste of time probably for you to, learn that sport, versus football that you do have a passion for. And I think this is the same with this. When you're getting information, AI or not, you need to put into two categories. Is it something that you're bothered about? If so, do your research, even if you believe it, and even if you are 100% confident that, with the mindset of, I've stepped back, I've analyzed it, or I know this source is usually trustworthy, still do your research, because it's not about doing research to prove someone right or wrong. You might do the research and be like, okay, I watched a 2-minute clip, though it was correct, it didn't have all this other information. So you might just get further insight into what you already believe. And I think that's the other thing. People see it as, trying to prove yourself right or wrong, and people don't want to be proven wrong. It's about, okay, you might be right, but you might just get more insight. And if it's not worth the time and effort to get more insight, then it needs to put into that other basket of, don't think about it. You just don't care about it. It's like, you're gonna be bothered about, your own grass and your own garden in your, outside your house to get it cut, but you realistically don't care about the grass in somebody else's garden that lives 20 miles away. Because it's not part of your life. It's not something that you're active in and you care about. And I think that's how you need to, you know think about tools, but then also the information that you're getting from either the tools or from, news as well. Is it something that I care about? Then therefore you need to do your due diligence and actually do some research into it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm 100% with you. As long as you don't just keep spreading things without checking, that's that. I'm 100% with you. You know what I mean? I think the biggest problem, like as you said, people don't care for most of the things. Even the copywriting thing we were talking about earlier, like most people actually don't care, but they see other people complaining about it. So like, oh, I will complain about it too. You know what I mean? Kind of
Or it
going
must
with the
be a big
flow.
issue, because if you've got 20 artists online, people that are actively in, doing artwork, and they're moaning about it, and they're saying, oh, it's going to be the end of their careers, or there's all these copyright issues, then you'll get somebody that's a non-artist. And you see this with, movements and activism and all these other things that are going on, that they don't really care that about it, but because other people do heavily, it's almost like they have to, and they have to. It's easy for them to say, oh yes, I agree with that, than to research and then say, you know what, it doesn't matter, or they're wrong. Like, it's harder to go down that route. It is easier just to follow and say, oh yeah, yeah, copyright is a huge issue. You'll get loads of non-technical people that's never used Chat GPT, that's never been an artist, that'll probably spout that rhetoric of, oh yeah, the artists aren't getting paid, or it's ripping the artists off. And it's like, what actual proof do you have of that? What research have you done outside
Yeah.
of somebody just hearing it somewhere?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I always joke like I never ever until now heard of someone that literally lose their job to AI until now. I heard some writers that like r- lost their gig, their freelance gig, but I think it enters another point. Like, what is art, anyways? You know, like on the beginning of AI things with Mid Journey, I got really attacked by lots of artists, like really hatred speech and things. And then I would check the page and the work of most of these artists. Like one guy, the only thing that he did as an artist is to get a photo that already exists and reproduce that photo in a 3D thing. Like for the viewer, is the exactly same thing. He didn't animate, he didn't put a twist on it, he didn't do anything different. He just have a photo, 3D version, replicating exactly the same thing. How this is art? Like, where is the art aspect? Where is the human aspect of it? Like, he literally just know how to operate a software, got a thing that exists, and did the same thing. And then he's complaining by people copywriting and not creating things originally. Like for me, it was like what the freak you're talking about, man? Like you're not doing art. You're just copying other people work. You're a software operator, and that's I think these people are so scared about AI because it's a lot of like people that just like fits in certain markets and stereotypes and they go with the flow, but they didn't really want to be there or didn't really want to put the effort to really become like a great artist, someone that creates something new and different and brings a new point of view to the world. People just like, okay, I operate the software and my artist. Like, no, you're not. You're a software operator. You know what I mean? And AI coming to the scene is like threatening this artist position that was always a fake, never existed anyway, because a person never been worried about the message of what they're generating, the content, what the conversation with the audience, with their point of view, with something that came from inside of her to portray that they're just operating something to do something else. It's just a job. It's not really uh, something that comes from your ideas, something that really should be copyrighted, which will be like your own ideas. You know what I mean? So for me, it's a big scenario of people being scared because they're always being scared to be like exposed, and that moment kind of came, so that natural reaction is to attack back. And then you have like the complete opposite side of this situation, which is like I know an artist here from Spain, which he has a beautiful aquarella work before AI. She suffered a car accident and couldn't do painting anymore. She got her arms damaged, so she couldn't hold with precision the brush anymore. So she changed it to another area of like branding and still working with like colors and design everything that she did before, but in a more strategic way. And when AI came out, she used her own work, her own sets of illustrations, trained the model in that, and start to reproducing her own style and her own art again, which will never be possible, because of a physical limitation of some accident that happened to her in life. So it's it's always about the point of view of the person. It could be like a savior or it could be your doom. It's always will be about how you look at it and how you make at it. And I know thousands of like respected great artists that are just incorporating AI in their work and using as a tool, and that's it. And they keep doing the art they were doing before, even better, and in the ways that they did before. So it's all about how you see it and how you use it. Like you can transform it into a monster or into your biggest asset.
Yeah, that's a interesting point that you made about the people out there that if you use the example of artists, they're not an artist, they're a software developer or something else. They've used some tool to get something produced pretty quickly, may not have been AI real or LLM related previously, but they'll actually achieve something pretty decent. But they're not a proper trained artist. They either haven't gone to university, or they haven't put the years into and the hours into training as an artist. And then when the tool like this comes out, they're very worried because they don't have the actual sort of experience to get through it, versus somebody that might have spent gone to university, spent 5, 10 years working as an artist, really being an artist, then these AI tools come around. Again, you can either see as, oh, it's going to take my job. Unlikely. It's more likely that you'll just leverage the tools. Long term, your job will go away if you do not use those tools. It'll get to a point where companies won't hire an artist that doesn't have deep knowledge in AI within the artist space, because it's just the same way if you try and go go and be an artist, but then you don't have experience in using Photoshop or in any of the other tools out there. That's the one that comes to mind, and you say, oh, I've only been drawing it, but that's not the requirements of the job. They don't really care about you drawing. They want you to be able to create, PNGs, JPEGs, actual, SVGs files that you can be used in a piece of software in a game. You're obviously not going to get that job. You're going to be out of work. And I think it'll be the same with this. You'll get to a point where they'll say, do you know Photoshop? Do you know how to use AI, tools to enhance your artwork or create artwork or even generate artwork? And what tools do you know? Okay, you've used Chat GPT, you've used Midjourney. Have you also used the subset of AI features in the new Adobe Photoshop, which might come out, whatever it is? And then if you haven't, they're gonna be like, we don't want you. And it's not a matter of AI is taking your job. It's just a matter of somebody else has got the skills that require AI to be part of it, and they've taken your job. I think a lot of it, of people's jobs going away, is going to be that they're not going to adapt, and as a result, their jobs are going to be lost to people that have adapted and didn't wait too long.
Yeah, I'm with you with that. I think when photography came out, it didn't stop existing painters. They just changed their focus of from building, from reproducing things that are out there in the world to something more artistic, more new, more creative, more interesting, even, So you, one can argue that the photography actually helped the whole people that were super scared at the time, the artists at the time, to give a step forward and really start developing new painting techniques, new ways of expressing their emotions and their feelings and their selves with painting that were not attached to like reproduce this person or reproduce this landscape, this scenery. So I think with AI will be the same thing. That's already people already exploring new ways of building solutions and new ways of reproducing art and create art that involves the audience more, because you can get again giving a twist to the beginning of our conversation, the real time aspect that just came out from OpenAI, that opens new possibilities of creating art that is interactive. You know what I mean? Like an artist can conceptualize a piece that has the audience as part of it, and that can bring the audience uniqueness to it, working alongside with the artist's work. So that's a next level. Again, talking about what we were talking in the beginning, next level of communication. You know what I mean? Not more just, but not just spoken words and listened words or written words and reading, but really to communicate and collaborate in a deeper level as humans, and using technology to do that. You know what I mean? That technology being the allower of of these whole things.
So I've got like a interesting question for you. Out for the work that you do, in art, what percentage of it would you say uses AI in some capacity versus what percentage isn't using it? Let's say if you're using Photoshop and you're just doing some cropping, in there, which obviously isn't using AI. Obviously it's kind of hard to tell because some tools might have AI baked in and you might not know. But it's ignoring that, just the stuff that you can immediately see. What's the split in your workflow, and how has that changed over the last 1 to 2 years as ChatGPT, Midjourney, and other tools have got better, and you've got like Comfy UI, a lot of tools that are coming out that are more specific because ChatGPT is pretty, broad right now. How has it changed as well?
Yeah, so nowadays, how it is AI is in all my work, but all my work is not AI. You know what I mean? AI is a part of each and every piece I do, but it's not just AI. It's always alongside with a lot of other sets of tools. Like I mix 3D with Photoshop, with editing, with real footage that I take with my camera, with text to the animations, AI in the middle. So it's AI is an integral part of my daily work. I use it every day for a lots of things, but always alongside with other tools. And it's being more and more and more that happening. I think like 2 years ago, it was just like from some details, some specific things, and it just became a more natural and daily thing as the time passes. But it's been a long time, like almost a year that I use AI in almost everything, being ChatGPT to assist me do fast works, or being Mid Journey to help me conceptualize and show ideas fast for the client and jump from that stage to like production in 3D, for example. So I'm always trying to figure out ways to use AI in a smart way, like fill the gap of like maybe it's a skill set that I don't have and I don't have budget or time to hire someone else to do it. Maybe it's something new that I couldn't do before and I have an idea and now maybe I can with AI. Or it's just really a time saver. For example, if I need a texture for a 3D asset, before I need to search about it, produce it with my camera, which will take like a long time. And these are the options. Now I can literally jump into Mid Journey or Leonardo and like build something really fast and like use another AI to transform that image into the maps that I need to use in 3D. And like in a matter of 2 minutes, I have a new texture, which will before take me at least half an hour, 1 hour to have. So of course, it's super important to use to save time and to accelerate process because it, it is a little bit demanding the market we are in terms of produce lots of things fast. So I think it is good to have a tool that help you do that as long as it doesn't get in the way of your creativity, but enhances it, but allows you to be more creative. So I always joke that before AI, like I had, you know, 50 ideas in my head per day, and I can produce one with 3D. Now I can produce like 35, 30, maybe 25. So it's a greater escape of my whole creativity and mind, like to have AI being the allower of this creativity. So for me, it's really just a great partner, a great tool that I can use to do my job better and like serve better my clients and like tell the stories that my the clients brands want to tell to their audience in a better and more effective way. And especially super excited about the real time thing and how we can insert the audience and the customer of our clients inside of the projects that we're working on. I think that's what I'm most excited for the future. And yeah, hope I answer your question.
Oh yes, you did. So you said that AI is in all your work, but not all your work is AI. So when you're working with clients, doing work for them, do you ever not tell them that you're using AI? Did you ever feel like, okay, that might hurt the relationship? Or, they might have concerns, or they might think, why are we paying you even though you're using AI? Do you ever have that? Or is it a matter of, they know, or, that you're going to use AI?
So there is a lot of education need in the client side for AI, but that never happened like with me. I'm incredibly transparent on this type of things. So most people that come work to me, they come because of the AI. So never have to lie or hide or anything. on the opposite side, like always being like an excitement, like, hey, look, I'm using AI and did this really fast for you. And look how good is the quality of this concept of this idea that will take like 3 days before. And now I did it like in a couple of hours. What do you think of it? Can we move to the next phase? So clients get excited by seeing the results. You know what I mean? So I've never had to lie or to like hide the fact that I'm using AI. Is actually a great showcase of my work. Is why people came to work with me. There is a lot of education need in the sense of what really AI can do, how really fast it can do it, how cheap and how not cheap it is. I think that's a lot of education needed on the client side in all the aspects, and it's been a big part of lots of projects. But most, especially agencies that hire me as a consultant to work for brands or for themselves, they are aware of AI being a technologist and what technology, sorry, and what they are hiring is the artist behind and not the technology itself. So they are coming with like budgets ready for what they will pay for a 3D artist or a motion artist in the case of, depending on the job, of course, but on the artist that doesn't use AI, they kind of come with the same budget in mind with the expectation of it to be faster. So clients like big brands, they need from zero like education because they don't even know what can do, how it can do, the prices and anything. So, but they usually don't assume, they just ask. But studios and agencies, advertising agencies, they are aware of what is happening in the scenario and they are willing to pay the right price for it. And they don't expect you to charge less because it's AI. They do expect it to be faster because of AI.
Okay, I think that's very interesting. I think it helps that you're clearly working with clients that are forward thinking, that don't care about it, and they're actually happy. That you're using those tools. So you're co-anchor on Zero One Cast. Do you want to talk a
Mhm.
little bit about what Zero One Cast is?
Yeah, sure, sure. Thanks for asking. So, uh, being part of a community in the AI landscape is really important, and I've been working on that since the beginning. And so, in the end of last year, 2023, a friend of mine, Odair Faleco, he is also Brazilian. He was searching about a database of AI movies so he can see the best ones, and he didn't find anything. So he decided to create it. He was an UX designer, so he quickly put together a nice website. And we encountered each other in these communities, in Discord and everything. And he asked me if I wanted to give some help with the Zero One Cine, which is a website that has AI filmmaking curators. So it's like just the best of the best AI movies are in there. We have a director's directory also, and we are always focusing on give back to the community. So we are always using like the artist links to give them the profit from the views and not get anything. So it's really a passion project to give back to the community. And alongside of these initiatives, one of them is Zero One Cast, which is a podcast that we host with the most prominent figures in the AI filmmaking and AI technology uh, landscape. We talk with some great people, some awarded directors, some the biggest AI school, which is Curious Refuge, which I have the pleasure to be also a teacher assistant in there. Um, and the podcast is always talking about half of it is about how much AI changes it, the process of creating movies and creating art and creating content, and the other half is about their personal projects, their human side, and like always bringing this balance between machine and human. Like the tagline of the podcast is a place where humans dreams and machines create. So I think that says a lot. And Yeah, we're always launching new things with great guests. So if you can check, it's 01cast. And we also have trained GPT to help anyone from a beginner filmmaker to an experienced one to be a real assistant on the filmmaking process. So it's a Filmmaker Pro GPT is called, and it's trained to help anyone to do any part of the conception of a film. So it will help you write the script, the story, build the characters, build the hooks. It understand how are the formats and the techniques used to portray things in filmmaking, and it can literally, if you don't have experience, teach you step by step of how to produce a movie. So it will make you a step by step list saying what you need to do first, and it will take you through each one of the steps from the idea conceptualization of your movie to what technologies we use, what formats we use, uh, to the character development, to the story development, until the end to develop a storyboard that you can take and start producing images or like do footage or whatever way you want to produce your movie to be like this GPT is trained to help you in all these processes. And as everything we are doing 01, allowing we are giving this to people for free. So everything we're doing there is for free. And yeah, it would be great to have people being part of the community and submitting their movies to our platform. Thanks a lot for asking.
Oh, no problem. I think it's pretty cool what you're doing over there. So, anyone that's interested, it's called 01cast. So, anyone that does want to check it out, where can they check it out? Where is it available?
So we have the main website called 01cine.com. In there, we'll find both the curatory of the best AI movies on the internet right now, then you will find a link to 01cast and to the Filmmaker Pro on the website.
Okay. Well, what I'll do is for anyone that's listening, I'll get the links off you, Mauricio, and I'll put them in the description. So when you're listening to this episode, guys, if you just go into the description, you'll be able to access all those links. And what I'll, actually, Mauricio, if you when you give me those links, if you could give me links for some of the other AI tools that you mentioned, like Comfy UI, some of the other ones, because I think there'll be some users that may not have come across these even in mid journey, and all the links, and I'll put them in as well because I think it'll be very interesting for users to be able to access the tools that we've been discussing in this podcast.
Sure thing, copy.
Okay, so before we wrap up, what advice would you give to someone that's listening and that is thinking about using AI to create artwork? Where do you recommend them starting? What do you recommend them focusing on and not focusing on?
Okay. Yeah, great question again, man. So I think the first tip is like don't be afraid of it. It's just a technology. Go and test it. Like if you're an artist, the best thing you can do right now is go and test AI and start to play with it to see what it can do for you. The second thing is it can be incredibly overwhelming. So it's a good thing to maybe first think about what you want to do. You know what I mean? You want to focus on building static art. You want to focus on build films. You want to focus on build animations. You want to focus on build, I don't know, children's book, illustrate to illustrator or whatever. Think about what we want to do, or like in which aspects of your work you think AI can help you, and start your search by that, because it can be really overwhelming to try to be up to everything that's happening in the AI scenery. So focus your search will help a lot. The best places to start are definitely YouTube, Discord communities, and ChatGPT itself. So in ChatGPT, you can ask which AI tools are available to help you do X. So for example, hey ChatGPT, I want to know which available tools, AI tools, are for music production, and it will list you Suno, Audio, and Stable Audio, lots of other ones. Hey ChatGPT, what are the best AI tools for animation? And it will list a lot of them, and even like can help you point to great tutorials or to build a list of series of tutorials. Like, can you search for a course on this specific software? So use AI to learn about AI, be smart, but especially think about what do you want to take out from AI, what you want to do with it, how to use it, what is the purpose, because it will help you a lot to focus on what you want to learn, and that will give you way better responses, and way better, it will be way easier to follow a path and not like 30 different one. And focus on the community. The AI community is incredible. The amount of support and help that people provide to each other is unprecedented. So focus on find an AI community. It can be on LinkedIn, it can be on Discord, it could be on Facebook. They are focused on things that interest you. Like their AI communities focus on like animals and do cute animal imagery. That's it. You can go there like and find their community and learn with people in there. So find something you like, find a community that can support it, and try, test it, do it a lot without fear. Soon you'll see that it's just another technique that you can like insert into your artist skill set or develop a new passion if you don't have any art uh, or like visual content background. It can be a new passion that you can develop quickly and easily. And study about the things that really matter, like story of art and photography basics and principles, because that will give you vocabulary to talk to the AI better and produce better results. So the better you know about art and photography and 3D and cinema and everything, the better AI operator you'll be. It's not about being a tech person. It's about how curious you are and how much you can absorb and learn. That's the only skill required for AI.
100% agree. I think that's some really great advice, going forward. And yeah, before we wrap up, one thing I always do with all my guests is a rapid fire fun round of questions. Are you ready for them, Mauricio?
Sure thing, should help.
Okay, so the first one, because you're already running your own company, you're self-employed, so I think this will be very relevant to you. Would you rather run a 10-person company, or let's say AI agency, or a 1,000-person company, and why?
A small company always best. Just by experience, by years, it produces the best results because it has the best communication. It's way easier to talk and keep everything focused on the same objective and the same goal in 10 people than it is with 1,000. And just by that, like it makes the whole difference.
Okay. I mean, I definitely see your point of view, especially when you get bigger, it becomes less personal. You don't know everyone's name. You're
Yeah.
less involved. So yeah, there's. I think it also depends on what you're trying to do as well, the size of the projects, and I guess the the personal touch as well. So you're in Spain. So I'll answer. I'll ask this question in euros. Would you rather have 5 million euros up front or 500,000 a year for the rest of your life? And what's your reasoning behind your answer?
I think will be the 500,000 a year just because the way that I operate and like I'm not good with financials, so I need lots of help in that. So I think it will be easier for me to manage 500,000 a year than to manage five and make it last for how many years I need it. Apart from being like with 5 million, you'll be able to build investment and like be generating rent and profit from it easily, but it's not my cup of tea, so it would be a stress for me. So like definitely the 500,000 by year.
Okay, and what's your favorite board game, movie, and video game?
Board game War. Loved War when I was a kid. Video game. I always loved the simplicity of things, like not to have to plug in the video game and like wait half an hour for the initial movie and then for the load. I like to literally press play, click a button, and start playing. So I'll say Super Mario. It's Super Mario World would be my favorite. And movie, wow, it's hard. I can tell you my favorite movie right now because it changes from time to time. But right now, I think will be a classic of Spirited Away by Studio Ghibli. I just really love the story and how they get like simple things of life and make it interesting. Like they have a scene in the middle of the movie when she gets some news and she gets to tell this news to another person. Almost everyone in the world will like do a quick cut, take there from the house to the place where she meet the person and make that happen. But they make the whole thing happen. Like she get out the house, get down the stairs, walk on the street, cross through some park and everything. Like a 2 3 minutes scene that make the person arrive that in the place that she should be, which is like incredibly simple scene, just someone walking on the city. That's it. But they make so interesting and like show the struggle and the desperation of the person to get there. Like for me, the simplicity that they bring to the movies is just incredible and super inspiring.
Okay, so a side question, to these favorite ones. What's your favorite AI generated, piece? It can be, art, music, game, movie, and it doesn't have to be fully AI generated because that's very difficult to do to on a high level.
Mhm.
Something that has the creators have been open that they've used AI and it's been a big part of it. What's your favorite piece?
So I would say will be the weird movies of nice scientists. It's just like an incredible weird thing that really does that thing that I was talking about with you about AI, that is take an AI and use this thing that it produces best, which is weirdness, and use it as an asset. So like this person is using AI to produce something new and different that was not able to be done before, and it's super interesting and weird. So yeah, Nice Scientist is definitely my favorite AI piece.
Oh, what's that called again?
Nice Scientist, it's an artist.
Oh, okay. Oh, that sounds nice, aunties. Okay, well, that sounds very interesting. Have you seen that stuff on YouTube? Different franchises, reimagined in like Panavision. Have you seen those videos?
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting. It's really interesting.
They
Some of
look
them
pretty
are made
cool.
for the school I was talking about, the Tourist Refuge. So where I work is really interesting and creative. So these are the things that really excited me, like new things, As I have an idea some time ago, like what will look like if Van Gogh was a photographer instead of a painter and like more modern one, and did a series of images in Midjourney and was like completely different results and epic things that I never saw before. And it's like I'm not infringing anyone's copyright, not selling this or anything. It's just a curiosity I have and
Mm.
generated some nice results. That's it. Just bringing something
Yeah,
new to the world.
and I think this is very interesting. This side of it. I do watch some of those Panavision videos, and I do really enjoy them.
Hmm.
And like you said, it's the creator of those videos, the YouTube channel, isn't doing one on Breaking Bad or Star Wars and trying to rip off Star Wars and try and sell you off on something else. You know what it is. You know what it's originally based on. It's open. It's openly there, but it's just he's using AI to be able to create a different interpretation on things. And I know some people might say, "Oh, he's using other people's previous work," but the reality is I could be a writer and I could write books of my interpretation of different movie franchises. Nobody would say have an issue with that. I could write books about where I see different alternative storylines going for different movie franchises. And again, I don't think anyone would probably have an issue with that, even if I sold those books. So I think, him, and I'm sure he makes money off the channel. I'm sure there's ads on it. Like, that's where I feel like them using existing, sources and then creating AI out of it is more than fine. And I think like those are the sort of areas where it really does shine.
Yeah, 100% with you on that, man. 100%.
Okay, what video game are you looking forward to, and what movie are you looking forward to the most?
Looking forward.
And
Oof.
it could be something that's already out, but you just haven't got around to playing or watching yet. So it doesn't have to be something that's coming out, just
Okay.
you haven't, experienced it yet.
Okay. Honestly, on the game side, I'm completely out of any news. Like, even on the movie side, I'm really about trying to figure out how to build them more than to watch and consume them. But on the movie side, I will say for sure is the next Star Wars thing. I'm a huge, huge, huge fan. So willing to see what can be made in that way. And in the video game side, I'll say maybe I won't be willing to see some new thing using AI that I'm not sure what to expect, but it's a different way to operate the game, like a new way of interacting with it. I think that's what most curious on the game side, like more than a franchise or a game itself.
Okay, sounds interesting. And the final question is a two-parter. Does money buy you happiness, and what does a good life mean to you?
No, it doesn't buy happiness, but it does helps a lot to set the environment and like take out the worries and problems that may be a barrier for you to achieve happiness. Like a good life, I can link both by being happy and have a good life for me is like to be healthy, to sleep well, to have a great relationship with nature, yourself, and the people around you, and be able to create new things and produce new things and like be yourself without being judged. I think this would be the essentials of a happy life for me.
100% agree. And I think, another, point that I would like to add on there, in terms of being a happy life is appreciating what you have right now or what you
Yeah.
might not have. And it might be a good thing that you don't have something. And, being happy in the moment, like, 'cause otherwise you might be fine right now and then you might be unwell, in a couple of weeks. I might be thinking, I wish I was just, didn't have this cough or, whatever. 'Cause I've had a cough, like I'm using my example, I've had a cough for a while
Hmm.
and it's almost feeling like I can't remember what it felt like not to have one. Like it's been quite a while now.
Hmm.
Whereas when I didn't have it, I never sat there and thought, I'm so happy I don't have a cough. I'm so happy, that my throat's fine and, I'm able to sleep fine. Yeah, it's not a long term issue. It just so happens I'm just unwell for a while. And so, yeah, being appreciative of what you have, and even if it's the lack of what you don't have, like in a good way, think about that. And yeah, to obviously be able to put food on the table for yourself and your family, be able to do some nice things, enjoy some movies, have a roof over your head, and be able to go outside and on a walk in a safe location and not be in a war zone, for example. There's so many things that we can appreciate on a daily basis, but unfortunately as humans we don't. We just focus on, oh, I don't have this or I don't have that, instead of seeing all the things that you do have.
Yeah, 100%, man. My wife always tells something that's completely related to that, which like always happens with me. Is like sometime last week, for example, my computer has some problems. Like I'm super stressed about that, my way of work and everything. And she comes to me like, yeah, but if you have a computer problems, it means you have a computer. Be
Mm,
grateful for that. If you have car problems, it means you have a car. Be grateful for the car. Like, yeah, you're right.
yeah, I know. Or it's like it's not even. It might not even be a problem related to what you have. You might be in a car. You might be in traffic. And you might be thinking, oh, this traffic's taking 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever it is. But then be grateful that the weather's terrible outside, but you're in a car. There's people that are waiting for a bus. The people that are walking like an hour or two because they don't have a choice. Like for you to, and again, it's everyone does the I do it, to be in a situation where like that, where in an hour everything's gonna be fine. Because again, even a problem with a car that might be cost, like where's this? You're just like, okay, it's an hour, half an hour, even sometimes you get to, it's like just this morning, after dropping my sister off at school, I was coming back and there was a car in front of me that was going pretty slow. It didn't get through the traffic lights, therefore I didn't get through it. If it wasn't there, I would have, even going at the normal speed limit, I would have got through. I remember for a moment I got frustrated, but then I thought, it's delayed my journey by 30 seconds at best. And, like, what does it matter? It's just like, uh, you know, what I should be appreciative that, I'm in a car and that I don't have to take public transport, or my sister doesn't have to take public transport or walk. There's loads of people that don't have this choice. And then I'm sitting here, frustrated that this car in front of me didn't go 10 miles quicker. Therefore, I didn't get through the traffic lights and get home 30 seconds earlier.
Hmm. Yeah, I know the feeling. 100% with you, man. 100%.
Yeah. So, that's it for this episode of FireDEV. Mauricio, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. It was really insightful for me, and I'm sure for the listeners as well. So, Mauricio, thank you.
It's absolute pleasure, man. Thanks for having me here.
Of course, I'd love to have you on again, especially with the way AI is changing. AI is one of those crazy fields where I could have you on again in 3 months, and there'll be so much more to talk about, or even in
Oh
a
yeah.
month or two. Whereas, there's other fields I could have someone on a year later, and it's still the same. Like it's like we're talking about operating systems. In a year, it's probably still going to be the same. Situation. There's not going to be much. You know updates or progress, whereas with AI
Hmm.
it's insane. So yeah, I'd love to have you on again, and I want to thank everyone that tuned in to this week's episode of FireDev as well. Really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing all of you in next week's episode. Take care. Bye.